They demanded I drain my savings to rescue their bankrupt legacy, but I was already 5,000 miles away in Tokyo listening to their world collapse through a single voicemail. The torrential rain of Tokyo battered against the tempered glass of my high-rise apartment window, creating a chaotic rhythm that drowned out the distant mechanical hum of the sprawling city below. I stood motionless in the center of the dark minimalist living room, bathed in the shifting neon glow of digital billboards illuminating the urban skyline across the intersection. The colors shifted from deep crimson to synthetic blue, and then to a blinding artificial white, casting sharp, distorted shadows across the hardwood floor. I took a slow, deliberate breath, pulling the cool air deep into my lungs and holding it until my chest ached. I could smell the Santo Domingo coffee brewing in the French press, intermingling with the sterile scent of ozone from the air purifier. It was the exact dark roast I needed, sliding down my throat and leaving a warmth in my chest that grounded me. My resting heart rate was a steady 55 beats per minute. I was fully grounded in the reality of my current existence. I was no longer the invisible shadow I had been forced to play for 2 decades. I was unreachable. The smartphone resting on the marble kitchen island suddenly began to vibrate with a harsh, mechanical buzz that shattered the silence of my sanctuary. The digital light of the screen flared to life, demanding my attention. I did not move. I already knew with mathematical certainty who was trying to break through my isolation. The vibration of the phone against the marble sounded like a trapped insect, frantically trying to escape. I slowly turned my head, my gaze locking onto the glaring screen. The caller ID displayed an international number originating from the region I had abandoned 6 months prior. It was my mother. The realization did not cause my pulse to quicken. Instead, it triggered a cascading avalanche of bitter sensory memories that tasted like rust on the back of my tongue. I was instantly transported back to the suffocating aisles of the failing hardware supply business they had built their fragile identities around. I could feel the oppressive dust coating my throat and smell the nauseating chemical odor of the neglected storage rooms. The family business was a sacred temple to them, the center of their limited universe. And sitting on the highest throne in that rotting temple was my older brother, the golden child, the savior who was incapable of performing even basic administrative tasks. My brother was an administrative failure dressed in expensive tailored clothing that he charged to the corporate credit card. I remembered with crystal clarity the infuriating way he used to lean against the wooden counter, his posture radiating unearned toxic confidence while he failed to comprehend basic inventory management or financial accounting. He would speak in a booming voice, tossing around meaningless business buzzwords he had memorized from superficial online videos, trying to mask his incompetence from the few remaining loyal clients. I watched him make devastating financial errors daily. I watched him overorder useless inventory while neglecting to pay critical suppliers. He systematically destroyed the foundation of the business like an aggressive terminal disease. Despite the undeniable evidence of his failure, my delusional parents continued to worship the ground he walked on. They looked at him with adoring eyes, convinced against all logic that he was simply going through a temporary rough patch and that his hidden genius would eventually reveal itself. The psychological torture of existing in that toxic family dynamic was a relentless physical pressure pushing against the back of my skull. I was invisible to them, the silent background labor expected to fix his catastrophic mistakes without a word of complaint or an ounce of recognition. When unpaid suppliers called, my parents ordered me to lie to their faces. When digital systems crashed because my brother refused to read the manual, they demanded I spend sleepless weekends manually fixing the corrupted databases. They never offered a word of gratitude. If something went right, my brother claimed all the credit. If something failed, my parents directed their blind rage at me. I remembered the burning sensation in my jaw from clenching my teeth, so hard I feared the bone would shatter. I remembered digging my fingernails into my palms until the skin nearly tore, just to prevent myself from screaming the truth at them. But I never screamed. I understood the principles of leverage and pressure. It was like a grueling training session where the worst reaction to being trapped under a heavier opponent is to panic. Instead, you establish your frames, control your breathing, and wait for the perfect microsecond when their weight shifts to execute an inescapable sweep. I applied that that philosophy to my existence. I retreated into the silent depths of my own calculated mind and weaponized my forced invisibility. While my incompetent brothers sought shallow validation and my parents clung to their sinking ship, I was quietly building a digital empire in the dead of night. Every evening after a 12-hour shift, I would retreat to my cramped bedroom, lock the door to shut out their toxic arguments, and sit in front of my computer. The physical exhaustion would vanish, replaced by a razor-focused state of flow. I was meticulously building a scalable, automated digital content production company. I focused on complex logic loops, data annotation, and Python programming, managing a network of profitable automated channels that pumped out optimized media across multiple languages 24 hours a day. I operated exclusively in the digital shadows, establishing anonymous offshore holding structures and secure accounts. I utilized artificial intelligence to automate the production process, minimizing manual intervention and scaling my output to staggering levels. I was silently generating more liquid revenue in a week than their failing business had managed in the last 5 years. But I never spent a visible dime. I continued to wear the same worn-out clothing, drive the same dented car, and eat their bland food in suffocating silence. I was a deep-cover spy gathering resources and precisely planning my ultimate exit strategy. My goal was not simply to move out. It was a total geographic, financial, and psychological severance. I planned an irreversible relocation to Japan, severing every legal and emotional tie to their sinking world. The final months leading to my departure were a masterclass in psychological endurance and stoic detachment. The family business was entering its terminal death spiral. My brother's compounding errors had destroyed their last lines of credit. The heavy shelves in the warehouse were empty, gathering gray dust. The ringing of the business telephone had ceased because they failed to pay the utility bill. The atmosphere inside the house became toxic, saturated with the stench of unacknowledged panic. My parents finally began to realize the magnitude of the disaster their golden child had created. Instead of holding him accountable, they turned their blind panic toward me. They began demanding that I hand over my non-existent savings to plug the holes in their sinking ship. They demanded I abandon my own life and ambitions to work for free to save their ruined legacy. They called a mandatory family meeting in the dimly lit dining room. My father sat at the head of the table, his face pale and his hands shaking as he shuffled final notice bills. My mother sat next to him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the helpless victim. My brother sat across from me, refusing to make eye contact, staring blankly at the wall with a hollow expression. My father cleared his throat and began to speak. He did not ask for my help, he demanded it. He spoke about family loyalty and blood obligations, outlining a delusional mathematical fantasy where I would take out personal loans to cover my brother's corporate debts. I listened to their desperate demands with chilling silence. I did not argue or attempt to explain the mathematical impossibility of saving a business that was already dead. I maintained a neutral, unreadable expression while my heart beat with a steady rhythm. I analyzed their micro-expressions, the frantic darting of my father's bloodshot eyes and the shaking of my mother's hands. I watched my useless brother cower in the corner. They were drowning and trying to drag me down with them, but they were unaware that I was already wearing an impenetrable diving suit, and I had zero intention of letting them near my oxygen supply. I gave them a non-committal nod, stood up from the heavy wooden chair, and walked out of the room, finalizing my decision to leave them to their inevitable fate. The execution of my departure was flawless and devoid of emotional regret. Weeks prior, I had dissolved every domestic bank account and transferred my wealth into international holding structures. I had liquidated all my physical possessions until nothing of value remained in my cramped room. On the final morning, I woke up before the sun rose. The house was silent. I methodically packed my essential belongings, critical computer components, into a single travel backpack. I did not leave a note or a forwarding address. I simply unlocked the front door, stepped into the cold morning air, and vanished from their crumbling universe forever. The visceral sensation of sitting in the seat of the commercial airplane, feeling the powerful engines roar to life and push me back into the cushion, was the most exhilarating experience of my existence. 6 successful months later, they had finally realized that the neglected pack mule relied upon was gone. The smartphone on the marble counter finally stopped its frantic buzzing. The digital screen went pitch black, plunging the room back into the shifting neon glow of the Tokyo skyline. The silence in my apartment returned, heavy and comforting, but I knew it was not entirely over yet. Seconds later, the notification light on the phone began to blink with a steady rhythmic pulsing red glow. A desperate voicemail had been left. I walked over to the kitchen island, my bare feet making no sound on the polished hardwood floor. I picked up the device, feeling the smooth metal against my palm. I did not feel anxiety or a drop of guilt. I only felt an intense, detached clinical curiosity. I pressed the playback button. The compressed digital audio crackled against my eardrum. The first sound I heard was not a greeting, but a ragged, desperate, sobbing gasp. It was my mother. Her voice was distorted by pure terrifying panic and crushing despair. She immediately began demanding to know where I was, why my bedroom was empty, and why the landlord had told them I had moved out and severed the lease months ago. She was talking so fast that her words slammed into each other, forming a wall of incoherent audible panic. In the background of the low-quality recording, I could hear the sounds of my brother weeping and the erratic, shallow breathing of my defeated father. She did not ask if I was healthy or happy. She did not express a microscopic fraction of remorse for the decades of toxic psychological abuse they had inflicted. The entire frantic voicemail was exclusively about them and their catastrophic, self-inflicted financial disaster. The bank had finally initiated foreclosure proceedings on the family house. The furious suppliers were suing them for bankruptcy. They were utterly ruined and were desperately demanding that I return home to solve problems that I had no hand in creating. The magnitude of their unyielding toxic delusion was so profound that it was almost beautifully poetic. I stood perfectly still in the center of my luxurious Tokyo apartment, listening to the sounds of their toxic world burning down to the ground. I clearly pictured what they looked like in that agonizing moment, standing helplessly in front of the locked door of my old empty apartment, trapped and drowning in the horrific disaster they had exclusively built with their own incompetent, arrogant hands. I waited for the desperate, rambling voicemail to end. The harsh digital beep echoed in my ear. The profound silence of the apartment immediately rushed back in, swallowing the insignificant echoes of my previous dead life. I deliberately moved my finger over the touchscreen and decisively pressed the final delete button. The frantic audio file was permanently erased. I placed the phone quietly back onto the polished marble countertop. I walked back toward the thick glass window and looked out over the sprawling, vibrant city of Tokyo, bathed in neon light, breathing deeply and entirely free.
Thanks for tuning in. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. Your support means everything and helps me create more of these dramas. See you in the next story.